Well, Brian said it correctly. That's a tough act to follow. Fortunately, I've always had the opportunity to lead. So, well, you can just imagine what it means to have your younger and only brother introduce you tonight and say such kind words, most of which he made up, but that's all right. But first, I would like to thank everybody who is here in supporting St. Thomas Academy. I know the Academy is deeply indebted to all of you for your past support and looking forward to your future support. And I would like to say a very special thanks to my personal friends who have come tonight to support me. Some have threatened to issue a rebuttal, but I have obtained a promise that they would do that much later. So now I get to respond to my brother's remarks, and I will do so briefly. First of all, it is an honor to receive this award. This is my 60th high school reunion year. We celebrated in the cocktail room just a couple of nights ago, our class dinner. Of the 131 of us, there are 80 left. And some 35 or so were at that dinner. So it was just a real pleasure to be with the classmates again. And I would like to express my appreciation to the committee for selecting me. But I would protest that a mistake was made of Mrs. Denny's two boys. The lesser was chosen. It is really my brother who deserves to be standing on this podium. I think you could pick up just a little bit in the introduction that was made of Jim, that his contributions go far beyond the business where he rose to the very top. Jim sat at the lead table in the business community for many years. But the part of Jim I know are really represented by his contributions to his church, where he's been very, very active, to Catholic higher education, to people in need of medical care, for which Jim and his wife had founded medical clinics in Chicago. Jim has been exceedingly active for years in the inner city schools of Chicago, funded by the Archdiocese. And of course, he's made immense contributions to our whole family. We are a close family, and Jim is one of the leaders of that family. So you can see that I have the highest respect for my younger brother, and I doubt that anybody could have a finer brother than my brother Jim. There are other reasons why I should not be standing before you tonight. Jim has mentioned one of them. Jim and I were not militarily endowed. We, for some reason, just didn't quite get it. I attributed Jim's problems when he was at the academy as simply those of age. He was just a child, basically. I was the older brother, but my problems had nothing to do with age. My inferior performance was due solely to a habit of collecting demerits. And you all were cadets, so you remember that was something that just sort of went with the weather and the climate and all of that. You just collected them, and that meant that I was never able to receive the Eagle Award. You might remember you had to be free of demerits. Well, I went through whatever number of years you have to do that, and I never received it. My mother, of course, always held that against me, but somehow or other I survived. But I really know that my basic problem, most of you don't know this, is that very early on in my career as a cadet, I committed the unpardonable sin. I errantly threw a snowball that hit none other than the commanding general. Do you remember General Briggs? It hit him right on his head. He was a really good fellow. He took me into his office, and he told me what's what. But then when it was all said and done, he very kindly patted me on my head. I was about this tall. And he said, well, boys will be boys. It's all forgiven, and out you go. That was great, except the professional military staff didn't see things that way. And so I was a marked man thereafter. So, okay. Now, lastly, there is a reason, though, that most of you don't know as to why I would even be considered for this honor. And it's this. At our graduation ceremonies, my poor mother sat beside me, waiting to have something nice said about her son. And so, as you remember, they had prizes after prizes. Prizes for athletics, prizes for academics, prizes for creativity, prizes for who ate the most. Whatever it was, there was a prize. But the headmaster went right on down the line. Almost every classmate marched up to the front to applause. They got their prize, they came back. My mother was sitting there waiting, when is something going to happen? And finally, it's just like an afterthought, he said, oh, there's one last prize. And believe it or not, he said, it's the prize for religion, and Chuck Denny gets it. And with that, my mother was so proud, but all of a sudden, all my classmates started to laugh. My mother didn't know what to make of it, and for that I say, thank heavens. And so, that was wonderful. And so while my classmates might rightfully say that I was the least deserving to receive the prize, and I might point out, I received a certificate, and when I show that certificate to my children, they claim it's a forgery. But now I have a medal, which I will proudly wear, and it really powerfully demonstrates the best of the ancient Catholic doctrines of repentance and the redemption of sinners. And so here I stand. But I would like to finish on a serious note. I received two precious gifts from the Academy. The first was a very high quality education. I don't think we appreciated at the time the quality of the education we received. It was sufficient for me and for my brother to enter good colleges and to compete with the brightest minds there. And for that, I am eternally grateful because it shaped my life. But more importantly, without my knowing it, probably by osmosis, the years at the Academy laid a foundation for a lifetime commitment to that jewel in the diadem of the Catholic Church, namely the Catholic social teachings that speak to commitment to the poor, the disadvantaged, and the excluded. That was a very, very important part of my life that came about in some large part starting at the Academy, again, probably without my knowing it. So finally, in my 77th year, wow, 60 years after leaving the Academy, I have now returned to high school in the role of a GED teacher's assistant. And as I witness the daily life struggles of my students who are immigrants, the poorest of the poor, I realize how fortunate I and all of us were to have attended St. Thomas Academy. And for that, I say Deo gratias. Thank you.